All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 23 of the Fulfilled Veteran Podcast. Today I've got Christine and Mike, and I'll have them introduce themselves here shortly. But you guys know I'm Albert Winks, and I'm the Veteran Money Strategist. So we're primarily on Rumble. That way we can say whatever the fuck we want to. I'm guessing Christine, since she's can I say former Marine? Is that illegal? I'm not sure what the legal term is, but
you're always a Marine.
She's probably going to throw some F-bombs out there today, so happy to hear them. But it's what we do, throw some F-bombs out there. But yeah, we're primarily on Rumble, so make sure you guys are giving us a like and share, subscribe, because knowledge is power. The more you know, the better off you are. And G.I. Joe says stuff like that for a reason. There's purpose behind it. But if you guys haven't heard about me, that's because I'm one of those silent professionals, and now I've got a podcast. But for the past 6 years, I've delivered over $10 billion to my clients. Let me say that again. Past 6 years, I've delivered over $10 billion to my clients. And so I am a for-profit where I've got two main menus. My big menu is that I am able to guide my clients through all the money that they've earned through their service. And that's a bunch of what I call yes and. Yes, you qualify for 100%. Yes, and you qualify for property tax removal or reduction. Yes, and kids in college money. Yes, and Voc Rehab to pay for your school. And I got a fresh story about that one as of yesterday. So one of my clients, he's a Marine combat engineer. He's in his late 20s, and he got into a master's program. And he's been my client for over a year now. We talked a lot, and I'm helping him with his VA stuff, but also I'm helping him with his, I call it Voc Rehab because that's just what it was, and it's called VRE now. This guy was, so every classmate of his that's a veteran is getting paid through Voc Rehab, every one of them, except for him. He applied four times for Voc Rehab, and he said, Albert, should I apply again? And I said, yep, go do it. So you'll get a kick out of this. When you apply for Voc Rehab, you go to the actual office, and you get to know people. So his words were yesterday, he said in front of me and a group of my clients, he said, I figured it out because I kept going back to the same office. And there's like a front office guy who says, hey, I know who approves and I know who denies. You've been in the denial office. Let me send you over to the approval office. And of course, the guy who approved him was like, what the fuck? Why is the government denying you 4 times for Voc Rehab? Oh, that's what the government does. So guys, the government's going to tell you no at some place and sometime. So if you're a non-retiree like me, you're worth about $5,000 a month. And that's just straight up money from VA. The VA loves to say the word disability, but it's actually titled compensation and pension. If you're a retiree, even medically retired, you're worth $7,500 a month, tax-free. Basic family of 4 as well. So I just want to say that. And yes, and a bunch of other money out there. So that's how I've been able to deliver over $10 billion to the best and deadliest humans on Earth. So if you don't know, MARSOC, 160th, fighter pilots, Navy SEALs, Joe Average, and everybody in between is my clients. And that's why I'm here to tell you guys more about this. I had a website that just went live this week that has a lot more information on there. So make sure you guys are checking that out. And so that's one menu item I do. Another menu is that I help veterans create and grow your empire. Whatever that is, could be a for-profit, non-profit, just whatever your passion is, just talk about it, do it more, talk about it more, do it more, and you'll get paid for it. It's crazy that it's so much easier to make good money when you're making other people happy through your own passion, and it's such a blast. So if you want to know more about that, that's on my website too. What you're seeing over somebody's corner here is that the first 5 fucks. So that's a book that I wrote that went to #1 on Amazon's pre-sale list. So that's the something you guys all need to know about. Make sure you guys are going there and getting the pre-sale version of it. We're still making some final tweaks, and if you want to listen to a couple other intros that I did, I talked a little bit deeper about that. And we're trying to get a pretty awesome guy or guys to get to do the forward in it, so that it opens my experience up to their audience. How crazy would that be? So it's insane. But that's the first book in the series of 4 that I've got a contract with, and with I almost said publisher. And so that's the first 5 fucks that every veteran should give. It's going to be, this is not it, but it's going to be a little survival guide like this. where my clients that are pilots out there, airline pilots, you guys, all that kind of jazz, you guys can buy it, buy 10 of them, have them legit in your hip pocket. It is this small. It is that intentional. Like, here's what you really need to know about. Here's what you need to know about. It's a bunch of F words like faith and family and finances and fitness and things like that. So it's going to be like, hey, here's your money. You need to know about this. Hey, let's talk about faith. You need to know about that stuff. So that way you can hand them out at the airport, hand them out at the bar, whatever it is, and help everybody out. So just let you know. All right, that's enough out of me. Mike, Christine, welcome today. And Christine, ladies first, if that's still a thing in our country.
Yeah, you never know these days.
Yeah, definitely tell us a minute or two about yourself and what you did in the service, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm Christine. I don't really consider myself a veteran, so I'll just say that because I was in Marine Corps OCS in 2001 while I was in college. And, the truth about flat-footed people is true. So I'm flat-footed, and I can remember when I got my physical at MEPS back in 2000, they said, oh, you're flat-footed, you'll never make it, but you can certainly try. So anyway, so I got accepted to OCS and went, and unfortunately went with a couple of fractures in my legs and some really terrible blisters. And so I was basically injured when I got there. The corpsman had told me that I had the worst blisters he'd ever seen. So I think that's something. I don't think they say that to just anybody, but basically I was medically honorably discharged about 2 weeks after going. And if you know anything about OCS, you can request to stay, and they can sometimes grant that and let you stay for an additional week or two based upon what the executive officer feels. And I tried to do that, and I couldn't walk. So anyway, I was medically honorably discharged in 2001. I was going to resign my contract to go back in 2002. And I was supposed to resign my contract on September 10th, 2001. And there were storms or something, and my captain couldn't get down to where I was in Pennsylvania to let me resign my contract. And then a little thing called September 11th, 2001 happened. Basically, I just wasn't allowed to exercise standing up for about a year and a half, even though I got recycled, which meant I could go back without going through the whole application process. And so I just decided to finish out my college degree, and then had an interest as I was working with the recruiting teams, the enlisted recruitment team, actually, in this whole recruiting idea. So I therefore sought it as a career when I graduated, and then made it my life's mission ever since, that if I couldn't support my fellow Marines on the field, wherever I was in uniform with them, I would do whatever I can, fight like hell with them, for back in the civilian world. So part of my HR focus has always been recruiting and hiring and retaining veterans and military members and former military members. So I've been doing that ever since. So I've been in HR for, 23 years now. So, but yes, that's my Marine Corps story.
Good stuff. Mike, fire away.
Grew up, my dad was in the Army, grew up all over the world, and went to school, went to college on an ROTC scholarship. And, fully convinced that I didn't want anything to do with the Army until they sent me to sapper school. And at sapper school, I got to blow up stuff and jump out of helicopters and do all this fun stuff. And I was like, well, this is a hell of a lot better than being an engineer, sitting in an office. And so when I graduated, I got commissioned as an engineer officer, and I spent the next 26 years in the Army, having an absolute blast almost the entire time. The Army sent me to get education. The Army paid for all kinds of training. The Army paid me to live in Hawaii. That was my first duty station, was living in Hawaii. And man, I mean, it just doesn't, there's not a whole lot that gets better than that. The things that sucked were out there, but I'll be absolutely brutally honest with you. It was better being in Afghanistan than it was being in Fort Drum, New York. I disliked Fort Drum, New York. Much better to be in Afghanistan. Retired out of the military 31st of December 2019. And when I left the military, I knew it was time or what I really wanted to do was start to find what it was I could do for myself. I started working for other folks. There's a lot of things that go well in the military, but there's a lot of times that you got to bite your tongue when you're working with people that probably don't qualify to be people that you should be working for. So I was looking for a business to buy, I was looking for something to do on my own, and did some initial due diligence with a couple of local businesses to buy. Nothing really panned out. Did discovery with 5 different franchises, and none of those 5 really sort of fired me up until the one that I bought came up online, and they started a franchise model in early December 21. I found a franchise in probably June of 21. Did about 4 months of discovery, and then started this business. 1st of December 2021, went full time in it December of 2022, and this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, sort of Albert, what you were talking about. I've found a sense of purpose that was missing after I left the military. I get to help people. I get to show them the tools that are out there, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And this is what God's got me doing. I love doing it. I just completely love it. And so now my passion, in addition to never feeling like I'm ever working, is being able to help other folks, particularly veterans, find that, hey, look, there is an option that's out there. You don't have to leave and get a job. You can leave and create your own job, your own vision, your own mission, and find your own purpose. And here are a bunch of tools out there. So that's pretty quickly how I got to where I am now.
And what's your franchise that you got?
So I am an entrepreneurial operating system implementer. EOS was a system created by a guy named Gino Wickman. If you've been in a military unit, you know that there's a whole management system around the military, right? Every week there's a training meeting, and you go over numbers every week. There's individual numbers, there's group numbers, all the numbers that tell you, hey, are we on track or not? You have a monthly meeting and a quarterly meeting to make sure you're on track to achieve that big thing that's out there. It's a system that's like that, but it doesn't require you to have been or spent 20 years in the military to understand that system. It's dead simple. It's dead practical. It's designed so that anyone can pick it up, anyone can put it in place in their business, and be able to synchronize all those pieces that are moving around on them in the business. So that's what I get to do full time.
Very cool. And where are you located, Mike?
I live in Gulf Breeze, Florida. So on the Florida Gulf Coast in the Panhandle of Florida.
Okay, gotcha. And Christine, you said you're where again?
I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha. Very cool. Christine, so
Yes.
you said you've been doing this for 20 something years now, getting into HR stuff. So what's what has inspired you to wake up every day and keep doing that?
Well, it's really twofold, really. Again, kind of like I joined the Marines, like I just felt like I needed to fight for those who don't fight for themselves. So same in HR, my mindset changes on the daily based upon what the situation is. I like to try to help people, but there and help those. So if I'm recruiting and trying to hire folks, or if I'm trying to do whatever we can to make sure, I don't mind terminating people. I've done many of that. Some people you just can't help, but there are some times when you could try to intervene if the person's willing and able and willing to take some advice. So it's really just, I'm not here to help people that don't want to help themselves, but it's just here to try to just do better. So HR is not usually all bad. And again, I also look out for the business owners. Sometimes we have to make those tough decisions, but I just have this intrinsic thought that perhaps today I'll just leave the world a little bit better. And whether that's terminating somebody who's a tyrant, whether that's hiring somebody who is, we're hopeful, we hire everybody with the hope that they would work out. And so it just depends on the day. I just want to try to do better in the world. And whatever that means, it depends on the day.
That's a good answer. Isn't that crazy how, and I'm sure you guys get this too, of like, I'm glad you mentioned faith, Mike, and that you only get today. And I'm glad, Christine, you mentioned pretty much the same damn thing. You only get today. And I think that's one of the, that's why I'm doing the podcast too, to let everybody out there know that like Mike was talking about, some of the simplest things to do are hard, but they just have to be done every day. You may not have to make your bed ever so perfectly, but rolling out of bed and putting your feet on the floor and saying, hey, let me do good things today. And then you look back 6 years gone by and $10 billion delivered to the best and deadliest humans on earth. Pretty good track record. So you just got to, and I know all of us are doing things that aren't really easy. It'd be easy to just quit and go join Mike down there in Gulf Breeze, put our feet in the sand, beer in our hand. But that's just not, we couldn't function that way. And we wouldn't want to live that way, because to us, our daily work is our passion. So I'm glad you guys are on here.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I just, I don't think, to Mike's point, I worked in corporate America. I'm in a privately owned company now, but corporate America really struggles hiring the veterans and hiring the former military members. And it drives me absolutely bonkers. I really noticed this in 2008, 2007, when unemployment rates of military members were very, very high because people were afraid to hire them because of potential PTSD. And I'm of the belief that we should require military service in this country. It might shape some people, straighten them out a bit, because, and I see how the veterans and some people would get really irritated and upset that people miss deadlines, people are late to meetings, people are not prepared. And, I had all the corporate people looking around going, what's their problem? We're just a couple of minutes late. And I'm like, you don't understand. That's not how that is. And so it was more so the work that I did back then was more around getting corporate America ready, not getting the military members ready. The military members are going to do whatever they need to do to get the job done. Use whatever resources they have available, invent some resources. But it's the corporate America that had to understand some of the cultural differences military folks experience. And so I just, again, like I still see it's a struggle, and we say it till we're blue in the face, but here at the smaller company, I don't necessarily have that same problem because we're smaller. Again, a lot of our doctors who own the practice are former military themselves, so they understand. But yeah, I just, my passion for a long time has been just helping the military members adjust back to the civilian world. And unfortunately, I don't have excuses for how some people act who have never served in the military. And I feel terribly for some of those people as they try to figure out how to fit themselves into this mold. And they shouldn't be asked to do that.
I hear that a lot too. And I'm sure you guys hear that every day. But I've got over 3,000 clients, and I've got I've briefed up damn sure tens of thousands of veterans out there and their families, and just the ick factor of getting out of the service and really want to push their passion, their service forwards, and they want to do good things, but then they just get, well, I seem to say this almost every podcast, so I'm trying not to lean on the same language, but I think we would agree that when you put a resume out there, a machine will tell you no because it's going to go after the first no criteria. But a human's the one who's actually going to tell you yes. So that could be a resume thing, could be a job. Most jobs are based off from relationships and human interaction. Like, hey, I know this person's a really good worker, and I think they'd be a great fit for your company. And I'm glad, Christine, that you're learning or have learned that big corporate's not the place to be, and smaller group is better, where you got more visibility and more of what you want, which is just being more a human level of interaction, that kind of stuff. So, Mike, it sounds like you went through some of this dating process, if you will, with vetting and all that kind of stuff before you married the company that you're working with now. And so now that you've got your company running, how are you doing that now on the client side, like going out and dating the clients that you want to work with, and creating your own clientele with a system that works?
So the beautiful thing about having my own business and having achieved a certain level of success is that I don't have to work with assholes. I now have the choice to opt in or opt out, and the system itself is built to sort of flesh out and make sure that you understand personalities of the business and me, and make sure they fit first. Because if they don't fit, let's find you somebody else to work with. I mean, Christine, you sort of mentioned it. There's not every person is going to be a great employee in every business. Sometimes they're not going to be great here, but they're going to be, there's an opportunity for them to be great somewhere else. Just like I'm not for every business that's out there. I am who I am, and I'm at the point where faith, family, freedom, and friendship is where I'm resonating. Like if we don't jar or jibe on that level with those basic core values, let me find you somebody who you do jibe with, because otherwise it's just like teeth on a chalkboard. Nobody likes dealing with that. And so up front, I'm very clear about, hey, look, this is my purpose. This is what God's got me doing right now. And that typically helps screen out the folks who aren't going to be there, long term, that we're not going to jive with. And then the dating process up front before we choose to work together is a little bit longer. Typically it's probably about a 1 to 3 month process before we decide to work together. And that gives you plenty of time to figure out, hey, look, just like in any interview, I can BS anyone for 30 minutes on an interview, but over the course of a couple of months, man, I can't BS you. That same thing happens with that dating program, with that way that my business is structured in order to be able to bring on new clients. And it works out really well. I end up having what starts off as a business relationship is I've got a lot of great friends now who we work together in order to grow the value of their business, in order to help them become more profitable, in order for them to plan for the future. And it feeds that purpose that, you sort of touched on it. When I was in the military, it didn't matter what dumb crap I was doing. There was typically an outcome that was going to be great. It was going to make somebody's life better. It was going to be better for a soldier or for their spouse, or for the Army in the future. But every dumb thing, there was typically something at the end of it that was going to be good. That was not true when I got out and started looking around in the corporate world. There's a lot of dumb things that they were just there to be done. And finding purpose and finding those things that are non-negotiable for you, man, is that so cool. I spend a fair amount of time talking to folks who are retiring out of the military, either officer or senior enlisted, and helping them understand what it is that they want to do. Christine, you mentioned the corporate world. There's a bunch of advantages for somebody to leave the military and join the corporate world. Typically, the total compensation might be higher, But if they're working for a publicly traded company, the expectations are much quicker. You got a 90-day cycle, and then you need to start producing. Otherwise, we got to find somebody else. Whereas if they're an employee-owned company or a privately held company, there's usually a longer time horizon, but typically at the cost of compensation. And so helping folks see that there's options out there, and they just got to figure out something to break the stink when they get out of the military, so that they now have enough time to figure out what they really want to do is okay as well. You don't have to step into your unicorn job that you're going to be into forever right out of the military. And that kind of process is helped me establish a bunch of relationships that still continue to this day, 3-4 years down the road. I totally forgot your question, Albert. Did I answer it?
Yeah, I think so. And I was going to say too, you made me think of something else too that I want to jump into. That every year there's like 200,000 new veterans every year. That's just natural attrition for all forces. And I don't have 200,000 clients. Man, I sure would like 200,000 clients. So I guess I got to stand at the whatever the opposite of what the pearly gates are. So wherever these guys are all getting out, come over here, talk to me. You want to know what I know. But I'm curious, Mike, how you got to entrepreneurial. When did you figure that out? Was it early? Was it 10 years in, 15 years in? Because it doesn't sound like you went out and got a quote real boy job. You just were like, I want to do what the fuck I want to do, which I appreciate. How did you get to that?
Well, first I did go out and get a real boy job, right? You got to whoever's in the military, typically by the time you retire, there's a spouse involved. And so making sure that you've adjudicated that risk level with the spouse, as well as, because I was all out to say, fuck it, I'm out. I want to go do this other thing. But making sure that my wife was on board and wasn't going to divorce me. We got out and got a job that gave me the time and space to be able to figure out, hey, what are my passions? And what am I going to do? So I did do that. I did join. It was a privately held company, employee-owned company. It was out there, and it helped me see some things that reinforced what I wanted to do and helped me move along towards achieving that. But as far as how I got into this, the last job I had in the military was an engineer. So I was a Corps of Engineers district commander. So I had Memphis district, which has about 400 miles of the Mississippi River. We do all the flood control and navigation and infrastructure on either side of that 400 miles of the river. And it was in that job, a good organization, that engineer district been around for 130 plus years. But most of the process and most of the way that they did business had been around for 130 years. And so there were some challenges with delivering projects effectively. There's some challenges with leadership and some significant challenges with culture in there that were forcing me to spend 18 to 20 hours a day at work. And it was killing me. A friend of mine gave me this book, Traction, that lays out the entrepreneurial operating system. And I read that thing in a weekend and started implementing that next Monday. And that was a game changer for me, was putting that system into place. Although it's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, it's not the U.S. Army. There were only 2 uniformed folks in there. And then the other 423 folks were Department of the Army civilians. And they were adamant about, we're not in the Army. We're not doing this Army stuff. EOS gave me the language to be able to translate what I know works, a management system, into a system that Department of the Army civilians would understand and grasp onto and gravitate towards. And so that thing was powerful. Over the next 18 months, we completely revamped the way we deliver projects to get to the point where we were getting positive feedback, not just face to face, but in the press from our congressmen and senators. And the district was recognized as the best place to work in the federal government several years in a row. And so that was how I found EOS, was putting it into practice as best I could in a federal bureaucracy. And then when it popped back up as a franchise, and I was like, lightning struck. This is what I want to do. I've got 26 years of experience doing this. Now I have a language that doesn't require everyone to have spent 26 years in the military. Let's go with this. Let's show them. Let's make this work. And so that's how I got into this entrepreneurial side. And it turns out that, man, there's so many commonalities and there's so much power for veterans to consider entrepreneurship. I mean, it's about doing the simple things consistently. And if you can do the simple things consistently, I mean, there is really no upper bound to where you're going to go. It's when you get confused and off track about doing the simple things consistently that things get jacked up.
What'd you retire as, Mike?
What's that?
What'd you retire as? 05, 06? Something different?
06. I retired as an 06.
Gotcha. So, and I don't think you guys know me, so let me tell you about myself a little bit. If you didn't know. Sorry, I usually say at the earlier beginning, but so I started out enlisted in the late 90s, joined the Army infantry, was over in Germany for a little while, and I got med board out in 2000, and then 9/11 happened. I tried to get back in a couple of different ways and got told no a bunch of different times. And I'm from Texas, Dallas area originally. Grew up on a cattle ranch out there. And so I kept getting told no, and I moved further south, Texas, and got told no to be a helicopter pilot in Houston. And then I got told no north of Houston to be a Green Beret. Got told no to be a helicopter pilot. And then I was like, well, fuck this. I'm just going to go to ROTC. And the closest thing was Corpus Christi. So slow and steady, yes, there. And that was a really great group there. And it worked out better because I ended up getting, it was what I needed to get in the right mindset to do what I wanted to do. And I did really well in leadership. And so I got selected, one of only 12, to be a medevac pilot. So I was a medevac pilot over in Afghanistan. So my long tour was 09 and 10. And so, yeah, I've been in the shit, as they'd say. But yeah, just, I realized when I was even over there that I'm like, man, I'm not making my family any better or the world better by me doing medevac missions. I mean, I love the idea of doing it and all that kind of stuff, but then you get over there and do things and go, I'll be better off back at the house, kind of thing. So you talked about unicorn jobs. I was given the opportunity to take command as a captain when we did it majors. So and they said, hey, we'll send you to all these flight schools and you'll be the biggest unicorn out there because no medevac captain is going to have the chest candy that you're going to have. And I was like, it sounds great, but I'm out. I already know I'm out. I've done great things. I mean, people ask me all the time, why don't you fly anymore? If you knew the shit that I was able to do in Afghanistan, the fun that we had doing, I mean, there was only us. And this was still like map days, not GPS. Hey, we're tracking. We know where you are. We know what you're doing. We know your airspeed. We know what your bank rate is. No, you don't. So we made the best of it. We had a really good time. And so anyway, I got my taste of combat, and I was like, I think I'm done. So, but like most people, I did get an opportunity. I'm now in Indianapolis area, so the Army brought me here, and that was my last couple of years here. And I was like most people, I thought everybody's going to think I'm a hero, and they're going to just hire me instantly and pay me big bucks, and I'm going to wear a suit and tie and all this kind of crap, which now look at me. I'm wearing freaking, I call it my PJs. So every day I get to wear this and talk to the coolest people on earth. And if a meeting runs short, we're like, okay, bye. I'm going to get back to my day. I'm going to go pick my kids up from school and hang out with them. I don't need to be sweating my ass off with a suit and all that kind of stuff, but I just get to have a blast. But you have to go through trials and tribulations and just learn, and everything is how's that line go? Everything is it's not done to you, it's done for you. So especially when you have a team.
It's just hard to see when it's happening. You can see it in hindsight, but man, what's happening? Sometimes, a lot of times, it really sucks.
And you're right, and that's why I usually talk about this further on the conversation. But that's why, especially veterans, we just need human contact, mostly with the other veterans, and go. And Christine, don't negate yourself. You served more. The passion by going in and serving. I can't. I even had a Green Beret tell me, "Well, I'm not a combat Green Beret," and I was like, "Are you shitting me?" I hear it all the time, every day. I don't care if it's Vietnam guy, Vietnam era guy, Gulf War, or whatever. Everybody says the same shit. Well, I only did my thing. Motherfucker, you did. Do you know how many people don't raise their right hand to serve? There are just so many fucking lemmings out there that just breathe hot air every day and lick windows. And my point to
that's why I think military service should be required. I think it would shape a lot of people up. But I remember, and I don't know how many people go to OCS I just remember there were 51 girls in my class from the country there. So I don't know what the stats are of people who don't make it. The Marines don't do ROTC, so you just, like I said in my note, at the time my boyfriend broke up with me. I was halfway through college, and I thought, I'll show him, loser. And and originally I looked at enlisting, and then my parents were, saying, you're halfway done college. Why are you going to enlist? So then I thought, okay, I'll, do this OCS thing, and I'll show my boyfriend. And that's literally what happened. And I got accepted. I think I was surprised when I got accepted. I don't like running. I'm athletic, but I don't like running. So the running, I hated that, but did it because you had to. So I remember as I was being discharged and processed out, there were about 40 or some guys. So there were like 950 guys in my class and 51 females. It's a great place to be if you're single, which was also, I guess, enticing to, I don't know, at the moment when I was 19 or 18 or however old I was. But some of these guys, they're like, and again, OCSU, anytime you'd be like, no, this isn't for me. Send me home. I'm good. No thanks. Never mind. And I remember I was the only girl at the time, I think, but then at the end, because it took so long to process me out, there was somebody else. And I talked to this girl, and I'm like, what are you doing? She said, yeah, I didn't really. She failed the PFT test, and I'm like, how do you fail the test this soon in training? And she's like, I didn't really train, And then there was somebody else some guy who thought, well, he was told he had scoliosis, and that could be a reason for him to go home. And he thought, yeah, this kind of sucks. Quantico's hot. I don't really want to do this. And I thought, you loser. Like, what are you doing? Like, you loser. Like, I wanted to be like, get your name and number for people who should be on the shit list, but and I begged to stay, and that the executive officer was just like, you can't walk. What are you doing? You're the only one out of 1,000 people who can't wear your boots, and I thought, well, I'll just try. And so I was really bummed. I was really upset when I, had to come home, and I really thought about going back, but I just can't run. I can't run to this day. My legs still hurt. But I don't get any benefits or anything because I don't even have a DD-214 that I could get, and so I'm kind of in this limbo, whatever, but I just thought, okay, well, that was fun.
I think you should, though. I've had people with worse. I've had people. Oh my gosh. Just on the term of ladies, I've got multiple ladies that have served months, weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell you I spent the next 2 years, I think I went back to college and was quite motivated to get out of college and, and get that done with and move on with my life. And then my first job out of college, I got hired because my boss was a Navy SEAL, and it was an IT recruiting firm. And he said, if you could do this job, if you could do that program in the Marine Corps, you could easily do this job. And so while the operations and the culture of this company were questionable, now being a long-time HR person, I guess I was able to hold it up and hold my own with the other men who were in that company who were they looked at me funny and then they said, you're in the Marine Corps? You don't look like somebody who's in the Marine Corps. And I thought, okay, well, all right then. you know, have you ever served? And they're like, oh no, hell no. And I'm like, wimp, like, okay, I don't know what to say. And,
So I think what Christine's trying to say, folks, is she's a little mean.
I've been told I'm like that, that BDE, and I don't try to, I just do. And I'm just not impressed by most people. I don't know what to say. I don't know how else to say it. So if you haven't,
I'm glad you said it that way, though, because
I
think we'll all agree that the civilian world doesn't give a shit about your chest candy. They give a shit about what you do for them today. You could have shown up 10 months ago.
Oh.
If you can't show up for 10 minutes today, like I've made. I'm going to try not to say certain things, but I've made life-altering decisions because somebody else's failure.
Yeah.
They may have done good 10 months ago, but then today I needed you, and you told me you're not around until later on tonight when I need you right now. Sorry, bro. We're done. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and in the work world, everybody acts like this is the worst thing ever, and this is just a tragedy. And I'm like, wait a minute, is anybody dying right now? And I look around, and I've said that I work for a large insurance company, and I said that to my boss, who I reported to, the head HR guy, and they were panicking about something stupid. And I said to him, like, wait a minute, is anybody dying right now? Like, and okay, if nobody's dying, let's calm down a bit, chill out.
The world down, yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's very interesting, the civilian world. In 2008, 2009, I remember, so the company I worked for at the time, again, that same large insurance company, they did very well. We were able to create these re-entry programs. So anybody who wanted to learn IT, I was an IT recruiter. I worked with their CIO, and we created these training programs. For somebody who, you didn't have to have IT experience, but it was, if you're willing to learn, we were willing to teach anybody, because, let's face it, like, programming in the United States and college programs for IT can't even compete with India, and so we were offering those training classes and did boot camp. We called it boot camp, because the military members and the veterans will show up to work every day, do the job, and will try to figure it out, and not complain about having to come to work every day, and not complain about having to be there at 8:00 every day, and so we were able to help with that by providing just an outlet. And here in the state of Pennsylvania, working with the transition assistance, the TAP program here locally, knowing that guy. So anytime a veteran might have had an instance where they needed additional support, mental or otherwise, I used our resources. I didn't figure out what that was. I just contacted those that I know who could help to get those connections. And so it takes human interaction to be able to do that. But you also have to give it time, and not just say, oh, that person's a problem person, we're going to fire them. I would say, no, we owe it to these people. Like, they're the reason you go to work every day, and you can go to work every day. You choose to go to work every day. So you got to fight for them a little bit more. And so those were just, again, that's early 2000s, how I channeled my energy at the time, channeled my anger for not being able to fight myself. Not that I would, because I don't think women were in the infantry yet. Not that I would sign up for that, but again, if I had to, I was more than willing to do whatever that was.
Good stuff. Mike, what's on the calendar out there for you? What are you excited about?
My kids are playing high school football, and so high school football is pretty damn cool. It's been forever since I was at a game until my kids started playing, and that's pretty neat. So that's tonight, near term calendar, and then this last quarter, Q4, is end of this quarter, beginning of next quarter is the busy time for my business. And so I'm looking forward to that because I get to check back in with all the folks, see how they're doing and see what's coming up next. Christine, you mentioned, helping veterans. There's a guy named Eddie Dunn who used to work for Marsh McLennan, one of those real big insurance businesses there in New York City. He was their veterans lead. He now is out on his own. His whole business model is helping veterans find their right place, taking advantage of Skill Bridge, taking advantage of all those CSP things, all those boot camps that are out there that are funded by it. He's up there in your area all the time. I don't know if you're ever connected with that guy, Eddie Dunn, but man, he's doing some great work. I got connected with him in 2015.
Okay.
And has been a phenomenal resource.
Yeah. No, I'll certainly look him up. When we were doing a lot of that work and company I worked for, that large insurance company, we even had a veteran symposium where we invited other employers in the area. We invited this is in the Harrisburg area, so we had a lot of the state resources right there. So we invited a lot of the VA and other resources there from the state. Plus the transition assistance, Jeff Panks is Pennsylvania's transition assistance person down at the Carlisle Army War College at Carlisle Barracks. And so it was a chance to just bring people in. There were tons of veterans available. We weren't the only employer in town. And we just did it out of, obviously we wanted them to work for us, but we weren't the only employer in town. So it was pretty well received, and they had done it. They kept it up ever since. I'm not with the company anymore, but yeah, that was, we just got a lot of leadership buy-in. Again, I don't know if it was mostly my doing. I know it took some persuasion, but we just, again, they were at a time when they needed some IT programmers, and the company had some DoD contracts, so they couldn't hire individuals who were not U.S. citizens. So they just found themselves in a pickle, and it was like a easy solution. Like, why not hire a dozen people at a time, put them through a boot camp, and teach them how to be programmers? And so I know a lot of those folks were successful and are still there and doing their thing, and
that's pretty cool. I mean, they've got several things set up around in this area too. But man, that's a life changer for folks.
Yes, yes. And we had people who came to that symposium who necessarily weren't ready for work because they had other, perhaps, mental health needs. And it was it was a way for us to say, we'll be happy to hire you when you're ready, but in the meantime, like, I think you're ready for this step. And it was, whatever. And a lot of the folks don't, to your point, Albert, I think you said this, they don't know where to go. They don't know who to contact. They're contacting a random phone number or a random website to fill out some form that nobody ever gets back to them from. So, it was just a way to bring the people behind Veterans Affairs and whatever these resources are, to show them that there are people there, humans who are there and ready to help. They just had barriers getting a hold of them.
Have you guys heard of Elite Meat? You heard of this?
Yeah.
They're a nonprofit that it's started by, it's been a while since I heard his spiel, but I think he's a Navy SEAL, and he's like, hey, for the first 10 years of being a special operator, that first great 10 years of 18 to 28, you're doing cool shit. And then you get out at 28 or 30, and the corporate world doesn't understand what that is. And so it's a way for, like you talked about, Christine, symposiums and that kind of stuff. So they it's been a while since I looked at their website, but you guys just made me think of it. But yeah, before COVID, they were meeting in certain places like New York and San Francisco and Florida and Houston, Dallas, that kind of stuff. And I've never been there, but I was chatting with some of their C-suite guys not too long ago, a couple years ago, because I was like, I'm working with a bunch of these transitioning Green Beret, Marson. They didn't know about that. So, what do you guys think about those?
Yeah, there's Elite Meat is out there. There's the Honor Foundation does a lot of great work. Special Operations Transition Foundation also does a lot of great work too. Both of those have got locations and cohorts all around the country. And there's good folks making magic stuff happen. Again, I mean, Albert, you brought it up, Christine, you just referenced it. It is not the applicant tracking system and online resume that's going to get you the job. It is going to be face-to-face contact and networking face-to-face. Because you probably know of 3 jobs that are out there. Maybe only one of them might be an option in your business, but I can think of 3 or 4 places right now that are hiring. And if they had a qualified veteran that they could train, they would do it like that. And so finding those opportunities or setting those opportunities up, get in front of people so that you can talk, so that you're not relying on the ATS to either, did I have enough matching to get it through the first wicket to the person or not? Getting them bypass that into somebody's hands who knows somebody else. And that's the magic behind it. And I wish they would spend more time talking about that in the transition assistance programs. I know they didn't in mine. That was not a thing that was out there. They did do the Department of Labor checklist to say, hey, what would you be best at? And then we can help you search jobs in that area. But that's about as close as they got. There was no thought towards networking. There's no thought towards any of the professional networking sites or any professional networking groups, or even letting people know, hey, look, for HR, right, there's SHRM. If you join, you have that certification, or if you want that certification, now you're in this whole network that's out there. The Honor Foundation, Elite Meat, SOTF, all of those things are out there.
We talk about LinkedIn for hours, I'm sure, too,
Yeah. Just figuring that stuff out and being aware of that. But I've found that particularly even with the local folks here, they're very protective of their contract. And so what's in their contract and what's in their contract curriculum is what's going to be talked about, and there will be nothing else. No options out there.
Pennsylvania must be very, Pennsylvania's transition assistant program, he's been there as I've known him probably since 2005 at least. He spends a lot of time networking. He brings employers in to do Q&As, and he basically says they're gonna hear your answers, even though I've already told them your answers. They listen to you guys as the employers. So he spends a lot of time.
The guy out of Carlisle?
I know what that feels like.
Carlisle, the Army War College and the barracks.
Yeah, so individuals, right? But then think of the servant or the community that he's serving. Who are those folks that are there at Carlisle? They're all senior leaders in there.
No, they're all levels. I've experienced. You mean from coming out of the military? Yeah, I have been in his TAP classes with the members transitioning out. They're all different levels, all different branches, not just senior level guys or gals.
That's good news then. I've experienced or offered opportunities to several different TAP programs at different bases, and not seen anyone as receptive as you say they are, Carlisle. I'd love to meet that guy. I'd love to meet that guy and put him in touch with some folks.
I could certainly share his contact information. He's great. I can send any job down to him and say, hey, Jeff, do you happen to have anybody or any spouses looking to, looking for any of these jobs? And he's always saying, yeah, send them down my way. I mean, what I don't like is we recently have been down for job fairs there, and I forget which group now handles a lot of the military job fairs. I don't want to throw them under the bus because I'm sure they do great work. So it's probably good that I don't remember the name, but they're expensive. They charge the employers a lot of money, which angers me because I know they're questionable. I think they're for profit, but there also just wasn't, the ones that Jeff runs, they're very busy. They're very, well attended, very well prepared. The other ones that this other group does, higher military, whatever, I don't know what they're called. Anyway, terrible attendance. And it's just like they're doing it because they know that the employers will pay a lot of money, and they're not doing it for the right reasons. And so nothing irritates me more. Right. Yeah. I kind of wish I knew their names so I could throw them under the bus, but
yeah, no, I hear you. But yeah, it's definitely some buyer beware out there. So just everybody that's listening, know that always do your homework and then buddy check, because you just never know what experience somebody else has had. I've had people who have interviewed great and then they do a shit job, can't even do certain things working with me, or man, I hate signing contracts these days. Even though I know contracts are clarity, I just hate signing contracts with certain people, because it's like, if I don't know you, I want to see what you do. I'm happy to pay you, but we got to work together for a certain amount of months to see that. If I'm hiring some like marketing something or some kind of ads or something like that, So
yeah, that's why that networking is so important. If you can find somebody who knows them, right? Or if you can find somebody who's been to one of those hiring conferences you were talking about, Christine, or you can find a professional who's been to it and said, "Oh, this sucks," and now you just save yourself 4 or 6 hours of dressing up in a suit and tie for no good reason.
Right.
Well, then the fallout of that too, because you create this false expectation. I did it too. Oh, I'm going to be wearing suit and tie, and if you're only looking at that suit and tie as your next step or whatever it is that you're thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, there's thousands of franchises that are built just around specifically hiring veterans too. I mean, these are guys who, almost like that boot camp idea of IT, they want to bring veterans in, and they're going to train you up on their system and turn you loose to go make money and grow their brand and grow your own, in some cases, generational wealth. Some great ones that are out there. Paint Corps is one of the ones that's out there right now. They do a whole bunch of stuff. Vet Corps is another one. They do remediation, and they're specifically designed to help veterans. There's that big gap. Most veterans have a big gap about understanding P&L and a balance sheet, and how does money move in a business. And a lot of these groups will grab them and train them on understanding how money moves, so that they're not caught off guard when money starts to move in the wrong way in their own business, in their own franchise. But just being aware, I think it was you, Christine, said it, the opportunities that are out there. You don't have to choose any of them, but knowing that there's opportunities out there sort of frees you from being stuck in a coat and a tie if you don't want to be in a coat and a tie. You can be in Albert's pajamas. Hopefully not what he's wearing them, but
right.
One at a time,
right.
people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I were long-time military, I'd be annoyed at how corporate America is run, and I would probably be disgruntled and frustrated and be looking for other options. I'm just a little jaded by it.
I've got friends who retired out of the military and love their corporate jobs. They absolutely love it. They love the compensation. They love the structure. They're there from this time to this time, and that's it. They take their vacation when it's time to go on vacation. Nobody's calling at 2 a.m. and say, "Hey, this is a problem," and they love that. I don't know, clarity maybe, or hey, it's a limited scope of responsibility. It's whatever they have to do, but there's nothing else out there. And then at the other end, I've got a bunch of friends who own and operate their own business now, and they love the fact that they don't work for the guy who pisses them off anymore. They do whatever they want to do. If they want to go to a conference, they budget it. If the money's there, they go to the conference. If they don't want to go to the conference, if they go and they're going to fly, they don't have to fly Silver Airlines. They can fly a real airline, right? There's all kinds of things that they can do. That's one of the things I try to tell them is, look, figure out what you want to do. Understand that there's opportunities out there. Go find Christine to talk to her about, hey, what does this look like? Go find Albert to figure out, hey, how do I capture and get compensated for what happened during my service? Go find those things and do that stuff so that you understand, and you and your spouse can make a deliberate decision as opposed to, well, fuck, I guess I have to do this because that's what everyone else does. If you want to do that,
I
fine.
call it see and be seen. I love networking, so I love being around people, and I go to conferences and stuff like that. I go to a lot of helicopter and special operations stuff, so I'll go to Florida and do stuff down there. Go to Tampa, and it's always fun. It's always a blast. And Nashville, and oh gosh, all that stuff. So it's so much fun, and you just never know what's gonna be down there. And I mean, I met a woman who we were heading from Tampa up to DC, and just happened to sit next to her, and come to find out she's not only a veteran, but she's on the board out of Tampa. She's on the board of Women in Defense. So
Yeah,
just never know.
it's a big group down there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just never know. And she, a couple weeks later, became my client. Easy peasy.
Nice.
Christine, what's on the horizon for you? What are you excited about?
I have a 10-year-old son, and somehow we've both survived these 10 years. He's quite an interesting character. Everybody always asks me if I want him in the military. I'd be honored if he chose that. He's not sure what he wants to do. He has goals of Supreme Court judge.
Good. Somebody's got
Yeah, but and so we talk about law and the Constitution a lot. I'm probably listening to politics while he's around, and so we are just discuss that a little bit. But so he's just seeing him evolve and grow. He's just it's so interesting. And
what's he gonna be for Halloween? That's the obvious.
he told me, and I'm sure it'll change.
Yeah.
But he wants to be the guy from Scary Movie, the guy with the mask, the scary character, whatever that guy's name is.
Something called him scary or something. Scary face.
I don't know. So just seeing him evolve is amazing. But what am I excited about? I'm excited for this year to be over. My mother's going through cancer treatments. And so my mother's about to start immunotherapy. So assuming we can get through these next couple of weeks, I'm excited for this year to be over, because then that'll mean hopefully that we're through her cancer treatments and she's, able to move on with her life. But I don't know. It's just surviving every day. It's day by day, my husband's a police officer. And so, it's just, his life is crazy with what's going on in this world. But, again, he's inspired our son. My son's either wanting to be a Supreme Court judge or he wants to be Secret Service. He's not quite sure yet. But he likes shooting guns and hunting and, things like that.
I listen to Dan Bongino every day, so that's good.
Yeah. And then he said to me, Mom, did you really know how to put together an M16? I said, yeah, I had to do that in 30 seconds. Yeah, why? And he says, but Mom, you never go shooting with us, and you never shoot our 22, and you never shoot my. And I say, yeah, Mommy doesn't need to show off anymore. I don't.
How about you, Albert? What you got on the horizon?
Well, by the way, I have 5 kids, so I've got one kid that's in my oldest just started college, so he's right down the road from me, about an hour away. And my youngest is in 2nd grade, so she's a blast. She's the mean one. Yeah. And just like I said earlier, every day it's whatever I can take control of. So I just put my feet on the floor every day and go, all right, God, put me where you need me and give me the strength to handle it. That's what I do. thankfully I just get to breathe easier and enjoy my day by doing that. And even I told my staff this morning. We've got a handful of staffers, and I said, I wasn't going to tell all of you this, but I want you to know where I am right now. Is I want to feel like every day to me as owner is Saturday. And I said, if I feel when I wake up that my day is going to feel like Saturday, that means that everybody's doing their job right. Our contracts are good. We're delivering what we're saying we're going to deliver to our clients. We're not trying to be gigantic, although I'm going to keep throwing those real numbers out there that there's 200,000 veterans. There's $50 billion a month being stolen from veterans. Those are all accurate. But all I can do is stay in my lane. And we've all somewhat said it, but there's an ecosystem for a reason. So if I'm going to be the little mom and pop shop who's delivered $20 billion or $30 billion to my clients, I'm okay with that. I've already delivered 10 billion. And you guys don't even know who the fuck I am. That's how crazy that is. So, but I get to hang out and chat with you guys, and I got a new website that just went live this week, and that's been a long time coming in different ways, and so now it's got a lot more information on there, and it's not fully done. There's like multiple pages about us and other shit that we need to put out there, but it's just more information for my clients to learn more. So
How easy is it to get a book deal?
Honestly, it's easy. I can get you hooked up with Trevor. Trevor Crane is my publisher. So Rachel, make sure we take a note of that. We need to introduce Christine to Trevor.
Yeah, I keep having this idea for a book.
Yeah.
And I've had it for years. I'm sure there's a story there, but I just,
well, feel free to let everybody know about it. Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it'd be loosely based on, I was doing some just genealogy research years ago as I was trying to prove my daughter of the American Revolution, which I did successfully. So, that's been exciting. And part of this, as we're finding out about, when you start digging up some family stuff, my mother, her father died when she was 17. He was a real shithead, but we found out that he had another family, and she had 5 siblings she didn't realize she had, and I mean, and the guy only had, like his other family had only lived about an hour north of where we are, so it wasn't like it was terribly, but like everything she said, she got to meet one of the siblings before he died, but the others have passed. And it was just the stories that she said. Well, you probably wouldn't notice you probably wouldn't notice Dad in these old photos that she shared with him, because he was, hunched over by his time in the coal mines. And he said, Dad never worked in a coal mine. What are you talking about? And, like the stories that she knew as her father were all lies. And and he died basically in jail. He of cancer. He had done several DUIs, and like my dad said, like he never started dating my mom until after her dad died because he hated him. And anyway, so I just think there's a story there, and so our family said, like, do you think he's asked for redemption for any of this? And I'm like, no, I really don't. Based upon just other data that I've seen, things that like directly conflicts with like what's on his death certificate, for example, where he's actually from, and I just I see a story there, and I don't think he's asked for redemption. I don't think he cares, and I want to tell a story somehow with his voice. And you want to believe that he has redemption, and you want to believe that he died and is sorry for his sins. I don't necessarily think that's true. So anyway, so that's just what I've been toying with the last few years. I don't know if my mother would support it, but I would do it loosely based on the story.
I think that's a good one though. And like you talked about redemption and stuff, and I think one of the hardest things for people to do is try to either pull somebody to my timeline or force somebody on their time. You know, and that's the conundrum with being I guess you'd say a Christian, of like, well, if God made me in his image and the devil is out there doing crazy stuff, you know, at what point in time does God act on little me or big devil or whatever? Because God has power to do whatever. And I'm not talking about my own timeline. I'm talking about his timeline of like, why wouldn't that? There's, I'm sure, many parables and things like that would talk about that the Almighty, our Father, has given us this free will, and Albert's on his timeline, Christine's on her timeline, Satan's on his timeline. And that's how I honestly approach every day, is that I just have to be like, all right, I'm like Mike, I don't want to work with assholes, and I've put up with too many people's other shit, and I don't do it. I don't like it. And I'm okay with being boutique as long as I've never worried about money. I never concerned myself about money until I had staff and they've got kids. And when some dickhead comes in and wants to treat my staff like shit, you're fired as a client. So I wouldn't even want to bring you in. Anyhow, well, my point to that is that I think there's a good story with, like, everybody deals with that redemption conundrum of even going to love or joy. That how many times do you think people scream at God and he still knows, he knows better? And then what do people do on their own timeline? Go, shit, I've been a bad guy. And maybe they learn it while they're still in this skin suit. Maybe they go through, I don't know, multiple layers of reincarnation, or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Right.
You know, resets. I don't know. I'm only me. I don't know. But there's something there. And I think that's just the normal human nature of redemption, and just people a different.
Or do you think there is? I mean, yeah. I mean, we found out he went to jail. Well, we knew he went to jail. We just weren't sure why. We thought that he had stolen some radios back in this would have been, I don't know, back in the 40s. Until I found an article, and basically it was after his wife had died, he had attempted rape of his oldest daughter and then beat the hell out of his youngest son. And, and so, and then how do you go to jail and then you just don't go back to your family? Like, I don't, how do you do that? And then just have a different life? And he wasn't the greatest of my grandmother either. Again, I never met him, but I have cousins who just said when he died, they were applauding. Like, thank God he's dead. My grandma was the greatest lady ever and lived her best life after he died. And luckily he was a lot older than her, and she was able to enjoy probably 30 years after his death of freedom and doing whatever the hell she wanted. And, and so, I just don't think he was sorry for any of that, but it's not my thing. That's his thing. And so anyway,
Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
There's got to be a story in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I think redemption is the ultimate story. Like, no matter what, like those are people who are out there. They're doing sick shit like that. And I've got my own very similar story. And oh man, I don't want to tell you who. Somebody who's very famous did some shit and is now in jail. And I don't want to even say who it is and what he did, and because once you know, you can't unknow it. But there's a movie out there that a lot of veterans like, and anyway, I can't even go down that road. But like, that's not up to me to judge. And I couldn't believe the crap this guy did, and he was he trained me in certain places. And another guy I found out recently, and I'm sure I think we all struggle with like the expectation versus outcomes. Like if you join Freemasons, then something like that, some kind of whatever fraternity or something like this, and then you find out that the person who brought you in is now doing 30 years for doing something with children. It's fucking gross, man.
Yeah, you never trust people. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah.
Between my profession and my husband's profession. Yeah, it's very hard to take people for face value.
That's why I say you're a better human than I will ever be, Christine. I could never do the work that you do in the field that you do.
I compartmentalize a lot, that's why I can, my job is to keep the peace here. And my job is to do what's right so I can sleep well at night. And I don't know, I've risked my own job several times because I've gone against what my leaders have believed, which is fine. Fire me. That's fine.
Well, I think what's nice
I want to sleep at night.
In Japan, or at least in some companies, a company or something in Japan, that they always have, like, let's call it 10 people. And they go, okay, well, 9 people are going to be for the thing. And there's one guy who's just the tornado who comes in and tears everything up. That's his job every single time. Mm-hmm. And that rotates because you can't always be that person. But you have to have somebody who covers your ass and makes you think about something that, if everybody's like, oh, wow, it's sunshiny today. Well, it's going to be sunshiny every day. That's all there is sunshine.
Right, right.
But they don't realize that the water coming down the lane could be a good thing too. So
yeah, just keep the peace. And again, if anybody's disrupting it, we have to adjust. I'm very reasonable, very accommodating. I just don't put up with shitheads and liars and bullies. Never have, never will. I don't care what level position you are. So again, I've risked my job more than once because I've terminated or have started the process of termination for certain leaders. Because again, I can't, I can't sleep at night if I allow for certain behaviors to happen, and have other people that have to deal with that and have a stress of it. And, so that's just my North Star is just keeping the peace, yet doing what's right, whatever even if that doesn't make me the fan favorite. I don't kiss anybody's ass.
Bad news never gets better with age.
No.
Just got to get them out of there. Yeah. Hey, man, this is not a right fit.
Right. And so I'm in a very supportive organization now where that's the understanding is, I keep the peace, help them grow, help them understand the risks. And that's my job is to consult and give them my expert opinion. And if it's, and they have options, and I will tell them which option I will not administer, but other than that, there are other options that in every situation. So yeah, it just depends. I mean, a couple months ago we had an employee who didn't show up to work, and I didn't feel right about it. And I was told, oh, you're just being dramatic. Oh, you're being just crying wolf. And I'm like, no, it's not right about this. Well, so then I usually wouldn't care, our policy is 3 days and then it's job abandonment, but something didn't seem right. So I had the cops do a well check, and it turns out this lady was dead.
Oh,
and and
wow.
And I think there was foul play involved, and and sure enough, there was a soon-to-be ex-husband that is now questioned, and I'm sure my tires will get slashed at some point, as an outcome of something that I've done, recent, in any, it just hasn't happened yet, but we have, yeah, right. I don't, I've been told might want to think about, parking in a safe space and, because some people I've fired, have been not so kind. Haven't had any major situations happen, but you always hear about, gun violence in the workplace, and I don't take that shit lightly. And, and so, I tell you, when I first started here, people thought I was crazy and was like, we need to lock this building down. It's too open. We need to use the security that we have in place. So, yeah, but sure enough, we had an incident where, unhappy patient came in and didn't shoot anybody up, thank God, and didn't even make it here. But, so now we follow very strict security protocols. But
have you guys seen the movie The Beekeeper? It's really neat.
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, Christine's more of an action movie, so maybe it's not your thing, but oh my God, it's another Jason Statham movie, but I'm not going to give away the whole thing, but it's so funny. He walks into a business like you're talking about, and he's legit carrying into old, what do you call those, the jerry cans, the gas cans, and he goes to the front desk, and it's a big, nice business building, and he says to the front desk lady, he says, hey, you're going to want to call the fire department, and he's putting the cans up there, he goes, that's going to be a fire. Oh, shit. Oh, man.
That's funny.
Even my kids, I'm telling you, my youngest, she's a terror. She's like, oh, I want to watch that movie Beekeeper again. It's so funny.
Yeah, my son just found out that, my husband's in this job now. I think he's being trained to be the next chief of police. So he's like more an administrative corporal role now. But my son asked him the other day, Dad, why do you have a service pistol? And he said, well, because I respond to calls, because I'm a police officer. And he's been a long time police officer. So, and my son just said, like, he started thinking, oh, so you could get shot at work. And he says, yeah, I can. And then he's like, Dad, how do you make sure you don't get shot at work? And my husband just said, like, well, I just watch my surroundings. And so my son said, I'm going to have to watch my surroundings even more, Dad, and it's just like a realization of the 10-year-old is now realizing that things can happen in this world. He's starting to pay attention more. We try not to talk about work and things at home because we don't need him, fearing for us to go to work. But yeah, I mean, it made me think of my son saying, like, well, I'm going to have to just watch my surroundings more. And I'm like, well, you're good. You're pretty good, and easing that. But he's like, well, it's also good for hunting, Mom. I have to watch my surroundings when I go hunting too. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's when you really want to watch your surroundings. So it might not be bad to practice that when you're just out and about in your normal day.
Very cool. How long have you lived in the Lancaster area?
Pretty much my whole life.
Nice. I graduated high school from Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, not too far from where you guys are.
Yeah, that's about an hour and a half north.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Lancaster's
always such a small. I'm telling you this. It's always such a small world in what
it is.
My podcast. I had a podcast a couple weeks ago, just like this guy and a lady, and both of them were from within an hour of Michigan, certain spot in Michigan. It's funny.
Yeah.
Small world. Yeah, I lived in Carlisle for 2 years.
You did? Okay.
Was in Lewisburg for a year before I left to go to college. Still have a bunch of friends in that area. I don't like how cold it is in the winter, though. Hence, I live in Florida.
Well, I lived for a hot minute. I lived in Martin County, Florida, which is just above West Palm Beach or Palm Beach County. It's the county
Nice.
just north of it, down
So
on the
what
Treasure
remind you of
Coast.
Sounds familiar.
And I did not like how cold north of that got in Florida. Somehow I adjusted rather quickly when it got to 50 and I was all bundled up down there. But yeah, no, I do not enjoy the winters up here. I can tell you that. Every year, I hate it. Every year I kick myself and my family says, you moved back home. Why? And I said, well,
Well, now you know you can go snowbird down there with Mike.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we snowbird. Plenty of places to snowbird, and it's certainly not. I'm trying to get my mom to move down there permanently, so that selfishly we can have a place to stay.
You get a place to stay, a little home base. Yeah. Yeah. No, my
she
wife and I are
lives
both
remote.
beach people. And,
Okay.
and when we retired, we said, why not? Why not move to the beach? Now our kids hate it. They all want to move back to Pennsylvania. That's where they want to be. And I said, it'd be perfect. When you go to college, please go up there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, please do so. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in Florida, I did miss the Northeast. Not the weather, just the environment.
Albert, where'd you say you were?
So I'm in Indiana now, Indianapolis,
Nice.
but I got clients around
Very
the world. So at least now our weather is I grew up in Texas, so I'm used to 115 and that kind of stuff. And I lived in Savannah and Alabama and stuff like that. So it's nice that we get a lot more nicer days in Indiana, and the airport here is really nice too. It's easy to just jump in the airplane and go wherever the hell I want to. So Destin is our straight shot. We'll go down to Destin multiple times a year. It's easy to go to Tampa. I haven't been out to. I went to Napa last fall. That was really fun. So if you guys haven't been to Napa, go give it a shot. It's way more laid back than what you think it is. It's just farmers, as they say. Hey, we're just farmers.
Yeah, I've never been to California. Someday, maybe.
It's like most places. It's better because of the people and worse because of the politics.
Sure, right. Yeah, I was in Italy for the first time last year, and I loved it.
What part or parts?
The heel of the boot.
Okay.
Which is not a popular, not big cities, very not habitated, but like in terms of, we got there, very few people spoke English. When they did, they said, "Are you American?" And we said yes. And then they asked, "How do we find it there?" Because Americans don't really go to that section. And then so that was interesting, just to experience the true, authentic Italian culture.
What do you like best about
it? Their clean food.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
They're clean, healthy, and then they are, and then they're our food. I came back here and I'm still disgusted by the quality of the American food. It's just terrible. But also they don't. Their mindset is they're not capitalism or capitalist. So they have small businesses. They work for large companies. They make enough money to be comfortable, but they're not killing it by any means. And that's their thought, So, that's what I liked about the country the most, was they're just not capitalist, and they could just kind of live and enjoy life.
I just watched a good, I don't call it a documentary, but it was on the Food Network with Bobby Flay and Giada, whatever her name is. I didn't realize that she was from Italy. I didn't know. And but they spent about a month over there together, and her mom was there, and anyway, you guys have to watch it, but it was like four or five parts, and it was about 45 minutes each, and just they talked about that too, of just the quality of food. Everything is Romano cheese this stamped approved, and wine this stamped approved, balsamic whatever vinegar stamped approved, and not only are they, but they're just like humble.
Yes.
Just,
Yeah.
every day is their day, and they're gonna eat food and eat great food and hang out with their great family and just do what they're there to do and take care of the little piece of the world. And I wish Americans would get on board with that shit. So yeah, I like the idea of going. I was over there years ago.
Were you? Yeah.
Never liked to go back.
I just liked, again, the food was clean and lifestyle was just different. I realized I was on vacation too, but but we were in the smaller towns and villages, and it was, our tour guide was from that area, so like we got to go to his family's home the one day to make pasta, and so it was truly authentic.
Cool,
It was very, very cool, and it was great.
And it was you and your husband, or your son went too?
Oh no husbands, no kids. No, this is me and my girlfriends.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't I don't travel. Although my son kept saying, "Mom, I'm so excited that we're good to go to Italy," and I thought, "You're not going to Italy."
We can see the pictures.
So someday I told him we'll go, but yeah, I just think it's good for him to get out and experience different cultures and understand different points of view, and not everybody is dying to get over here to America,
Mm-hmm. Mike,
and then I said,
you've been over there too?
And then I said, our guide was, or another guide we had, she said, "Yeah, I can't wait to get to America, have real American food." And I thought, what kind of food is considered American food? And it was barbecue.
Nothing wrong with some good barbecue. I like that.
Mike, have you been to Italy?
I think in high school, my dad was in the military, so I grew up mostly in Germany. I went in high school, went to Italy, I think, for like a week vacation, and then flew through Italy on the way to and from Afghanistan or Kuwait or some places like that. But never spent any quality time there. I got good friends who love it. They speak Italian. They stay in small towns like you're talking about, Christine, and that's all they do is they'll go rent an Airbnb for 3 weeks at a time, and they're terrible. They'll send pictures back of all the great stuff they're doing. But I've never spent any quality time over there.
That does sound like fun. That's what I like about remote work. Oh my gosh,
I suggested, yeah. And then they say, well, this is the newer section of town. This is built in the 1800s, and the old sections are, they're still using the Roman aqueducts, and
that's insane.
It's insane, and it's just fascinating. I was excited. Got to explore. I think one of the castles built and hospitals built by the Templars. So I was really into that. And that was
cool.
Pretty cool. Just to see it. Yeah.
Well, that's super cool.
Yeah,
I told you guys.
I lived in England. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
An hour and a half, so. But yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So I lived in England for a while, and like up the hill was an old Roman fortress. All the ruins were still there, like the mounds they'd made and where it was. And then, this was a couple of years ago, but down the road, we were going someplace, and I looked out the window, and I told the British folks who were in the car with me, I was like, "Hey man, that looks just like Stonehenge." And it was. There was, if Stonehenge were in America, there'd be lights, and there'd be food trucks, and there'd be, outlying parking at $18 a day, and all that stuff. And there, it was just a little low, knee-high chain fence, single chain fence, and a gravel parking lot, and then Stonehenge was right there. Crazy to see that kind of history. If you walk around London, there's brand new skyscrapers, and then there's stuff that's been around since. Some parts before the fires. a scope of history that we just don't have here. It's pretty neat to experience. Although all that being said, I would still never give up indoor plumbing or any of the air conditioning or stuff like that.
Mike's a bit
Yeah.
easy.
Right. I don't know if I could survive it.
So travel with your own toilet paper.
Yeah.
Lessons
Travel just to see it. Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, guys, we're getting up to last couple of minutes here. So, is there anything burning a hole in your brain or your heart you want to chat about before we go behind the scenes?
No, just thank you for letting us chat.
I think it's pretty cool that you've helped Veterans Fund. Did you say $10 billion? How cool is that?
Oh, it's so great.
It's unfortunate that nobody knows about you though, because there's a lot of veterans that I come across right now that they need that help.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on video.
So I think it'd be pretty cool to get the word out.
Every day.
Yeah, very cool.
You want to know what's crazier? It took about 5 years to bring in 10 billion. But the actual number that the VA is stealing every single month from veterans is about $50 billion a month.
I can believe it.
That's insane.
Why else would they make you opt in instead of opting you in?
That's the government for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now everybody knows about me. Now the word's getting out in front of the camera. So just keep sending folks my way. Make sure you guys keep in touch and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I appreciate you guys being here today. Like I said, we'll go behind the scenes, and so you and I won't notice much, but for everybody else out there, if you guys need to connect with Christine, Mike, we'll have some description things below and above, and buttons and links and all that kind of jazz. So, really appreciate you guys being here today, and we'll follow back up anytime. Jump back on and follow up. So.